Down at the bottom of a very pretty valley, there's a magical place called Summerton Mill. And when the water wheel turns at Summerton Mill, a little bit of magic takes place. And, for a little while, everything goes back to how it used to be.
Oh, it's a lovely morning,
said Dan, as he looked out over Summerton Valley.
Good morning, Dan.
Morning, Dan,
said Dr. and Mrs. Neighbour as they walked around the corner, where Mousy Tongue, the cat, was lying in the sun.
Morning, Mrs. Neighbour. Morning, Dr. Neighbour,
said Dan.
Oh, Dan, Dr. Neighbour just told me a very funny joke. Well, I must say it's nice to hear you laughing, Mrs. Neighbour. So, what's this joke then? Oh, yes, tell Dan, Dr. Neighbour. Oh, it's a good one.
Okay, then. Are you ready, Dan?
Yes, I'm ready, Dr. Neighbour,
said Dan.
What is black and white and red all over?
There was a silence for a few moments.
Oh, sorry, Dr. Neighbour. Was that a question?
Yes, Dan. It's part of the joke.
Oh, okay, sorry. So, what is black and white and red all over? Oh, I don't know. What is black and white and red all over?
A newspaper.
Dan thought about the joke, but he didn't really understand.
Do you get it, Dan? A newspaper is black and it's white and it's red all over.
Red, Dan. Red, as in it's read by people who read it.
Dan understood.
Oh, I see. Well, that's a good one, Dr. Neighbour. Yes, Mrs. Neighbour seems to like it.
Oh, I've never heard anything so funny in the whole of my life. Hey, I'll tell you what, said Dan. I've just thought of a joke.
Go on, then,
said Dr. Neighbour.
Are you ready?
Yes, we're ready.
Dan composed himself.
What's round and fluffy and yellow and goes wee? Is it? Yes! A chicken!
Dan found his joke very amusing. In fact, he couldn't stop laughing.
Well, I must say, Dr. Neighbour, that's not the funniest joke I've ever heard,
said Mrs. Neighbour.
I must say I agree with you.
But it seems to have amused Dan, said Dr. Neighbour.
Oh dear. And now I've got hiccups. Oh, don't make me laugh.
They all laughed and laughed and laughed until it was time to go home. And Mousy Tongue was still lying asleep in the sun. And as the water level drops back down, the big old water wheel slows and eventually stops. And Summerton Mill, still beautiful in its tumble-down state, goes back to being a home just to the wild animals, the birds, and the plants.